Hi, my name's Fran, and I want to tell you a little bit about my story of how I became a Christian. From the age of 7, I was taken to the Salvation Army, so I grew up knowing a little bit about this guy called Jesus. I knew that he'd died on a cross, allegedly, and that he'd come back to life again. But to be honest, it didn't really have any bearing on how I lived my life. I didn't know whether I believed that or not. I just knew it as information. When I was 17, I left school and I joined the police service, which was a career I always wanted to do. I went to live in the police station, single men's quarters at Reading, and that was quite handy because it meant that on a Sunday, instead of being in the Salvation Army, in the church there, that I could legitimately not be around, often out on my off-road bike or playing football with my mates. And nobody was any the wiser as to where I was. Often people thought I was working. One day though, things changed. I went to a call, just a routine call, a couple of guys stealing milk off a doorstep. And on arrival at the call, I had a fight with these couple of guys, and cut a long story short, I ended up getting stabbed in the back. Very seriously. The knife went through a lung. They thought it was in my heart. And I remember quite a lot about that incident. It was fairly traumatic, as you might imagine. And I remember being in the ambulance. I remember getting taken to Reading Hospital, and I remember them saying to me that they didn't have the capability to deal with any bleed when they took the knife out if it was in my heart. So they decided to take me to John Radcliffe Hospital. Prior to that, I passed out, and I don't remember anything about it. The next thing, I woke up in intensive care in John Radcliffe, and every time I moved, the alarms went off, which I found quite amusing. And the nurses would come running in and reset them and make sure I was okay. It wasn't until sometime later that I realised the significance of that. I really was hanging on a thread. My life was hanging on a thread at that point in time. And that's quite a sobering thought. And what happened to me was I decided that I was going to find out whether this God existed, whether Christianity was true, and if it wasn't, and if he didn't, I wasn't going to waste another moment of this precious life on going to church or doing anything to do. I was just going to go and ride off-road bikes and have a great time. But on the other hand, if what the Christian gospel was saying was true, that there was this guy Jesus who died on a cross for me, I wanted to find out and research that properly. And so that's what I did. I started looking at the Bible in detail, really looking at it. And that was many, many years ago. And what I can tell you is that God proved himself to me. And I'm nobody's fool. In my career, I was used to looking at evidence, and I looked at the evidence. But more than that, God transformed me, and he made me a new man. And I've been on an adventure ever since. It's not easy, and God never promised that following him would be easy. But what I do know is this, that Jesus died on a cross, and he dealt with all the rubbish in my life. And because of his death and resurrection, I'm now acceptable to God. And I believe that with all my heart, and that's what I live for. I hope that if you're listening to this and you're not a Christian, that you'll take the time to really look at it. I'm here today to tell you that it's true. He changed my life, and he can change yours.